Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I am Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss.
We meet here each week at Ted's Frost Top on Claiborne and Calhoun, and we invite a member of the restaurant and food community of New Orleans to join us. We also ask them to bring along a plus one. We never know who the plus one is going to be, but we do know our special guest is, and we're real excited today, Margo, I know you are too, for having Max Godin here. And this is going to be a different kind of show for us, new kind of guest. I'm really excited. But before he arrives, wondering if you had any food experiences to share with us?
Well, yeah, but I want to hear about your week. Did you have anything exciting?
What am I most excited about? I get excited about everything, but like I guess the yard eggs. Yard eggs. You know, I got yard eggs. You know, we have 3 chickens in the back. I think Orleans Parish allows you to have up to 5 legally. I have 3, and they lay about 3 eggs a day. And they're a little bit smaller than those hormone-fed, you know, crazy Franken eggs that you get in the grocery store that we all eat joyfully, all the poison that we eat. But they're also, you know, so fresh. And I'll tell you what, I'm getting to a point now where we fried up a whole bunch again for the family this week. It's spoiling me to other eggs. Like I think in a few more weeks I'm going to be unable to eat regular grocery store eggs. I mean, it's amazing. The shells are thicker. You've had them, you know. The shells are thicker. They're different colors, but just the yolk is like more orange and it just tastes better, and just everything about it's good. And I know what they've eaten. You know?
Now let me ask you: is it? Are you not allowed to have a hen? You're allowed to have as many.
We're not allowed to have roosters.
Roosters, sorry.
Yeah, I think there are some ordinances going around about roosters. I wouldn't want to have a rooster anyway. So, you know, they don't know when they're little, but some people claim they can tell if they're. And this woman told us she could tell, and she was right. 3 out of 3 that she sold us were hens. So, you know, we made out well. But
what's the work like? I mean, is it like a lot of work?
Not bad.
Do they stink?
Well, here's the thing. We had them before, and our neighbor's cat murdered one of our chickens. And the other chicken just stood on top of it.
Isn't that their job, though, to
murder the chickens?
Well,
I guess
murder.
Well,
gosh.
it felt like murder to me. I mean,
I'm
the
sorry.
chicken's really
and
mean.
they are like a pet.
So what happened is we came outside, and the chicken was, I don't want to say because Rachel's here, I just realized, okay, but the chicken was not in good shape. And the other chicken was on top of that chicken. Actually, Rachel's the one who discovered it. No, just wailing. Like in mourning. And so we took the chicken away, and then the other chicken, the survivor, wouldn't come out of its pen and just wailed all day, you know? And so we finally had to give it away to somebody who had some other chickens so it could be social. And then we got 3 more. And now what I did was I've made redundancy. There's several layers of security. It's like a high security. It's like Leavenworth, you know? And so no animal or human or nefarious character can get near my chickens at night. They're really well secured. But so in their security, they've become cocky and they're kind of arrogant. And you go in there and they peck you a lot. And they're not the greatest pets, but they lay lots of eggs and they're very pretty and they don't make a lot of noise. And
are
they're
they
easy to care for.
It's easy to care for.
Yeah. My wife goes out there 10 minutes in the morning, and Rachel helps her out a little bit with certain things. They have a can of feed out there. They spread a little around, give them a little water, and you got to empty out the poo from the thing. We put in the compost box and making compost. You can use chicken feed because it doesn't eat protein. Anyway, that's more than you wanted to hear about chicken. So, anything?
Well, what came first, the chicken or the cat? The cat has always been there?
Yeah, the cat was in the neighborhood first. That's a good point. But the cat. But
are
the
you
chicken
sure it was the cat? I know.
Yeah, because the cat used to come back and hang around.
Because there's raccoons in our neighborhood, and they killed my brother's kids' ducks.
Okay.
They eat duck eggs.
There's a slight chance it was a possum because we have seen some possum going around lately.
Yeah.
But
before we innocent until proven guilty, right? It could be a possum.
Could be, but I don't like any of the cats to begin with in our neighborhood. They pee under our house, and they're cocky. They hang out. They lounge on my front porch. I walk up, and they just look at me like, what are you going to do about it? So I get the hose. I go, I'm going to spray you, you know, and they're just like, try it, you know, and then, you know, and then I finally spray them, and then they act surprised, and they run away, and then they're back again in an hour. Anyway, that's enough with the chickens, and we'll talk about. We can continue this conversation later. But more important is our guest, Max Godin. I'm so excited he's here. We've had Margo. What have we had? We have had in the last year. The show has 1-year anniversary in a few weeks, right? But we've had chefs, we've had owners, we've had bartenders, we've had waitresses, we've had the high end, the low end, and medium end. I feel like we've really gotten a spectrum of all kinds of people that are involved in the direct execution of the restaurant experience, but I don't know that we've ever had anybody like Max before. We're going to hear in just a minute, but he's a guy who actually works with the restaurants to help make them better at what they do. And so that's kind of interesting, and I'm really excited to hear that perspective. So without further delay, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
glad to have you here. So tell us the name of your operation.
It's called Sidework.
Sidework.
Yeah, it's Sidework, and it's essentially online training for restaurants. So instead of getting a 50 or 100-page packet, a new employee gets a login, and they learn everything they need to know about the restaurant, and management can ensure they know their stuff. They get quizzed on it, and it's accessible via the browser, so you can get to it on a phone or iPad or your computer. And basically, they just use it as their online hub for information.
All right, so what kind of areas does it train them in? Like, what kind of people are using it? It's not the chefs that are going and learning how to cook, right? It's the people doing the reservations, and it's also the wait staff and all that, or who is it?
Right. So right now it is a focus on front of house. So basically, a server would see how to best describe a dish to a customer, what it looks like plated, breaks down the ingredients. They learn about the ingredients, dietary needs, what is gluten free, what is vegan, vegetarian, and what dishes are. As well as any wine pairings or beer or cocktail pairings if they have it. We've recently gotten into back of house also, so that the cooks in the back can see prep instructions for dishes and step by step, and also checklists for management at the end of the day.
Huh. So is it one size fits all? Does every restaurant get the same training package that they subscribe to, or is it vary depending on different? Is there a menu of that?
Yeah, so it's completely custom to the restaurant. It's all of your menu items. It's basically everything you'd want your employees to see already. We take pictures of all the dishes so they can see what they look like, and basically everything is custom. Outside of that, we have health and safety, which entails a lot of serve-safe type stuff that you would learn in a restaurant, cross-contamination, that type of thing. And then also we have a heavy emphasis on food allergies and dietary needs, so learning vegetarian, vegan, and like I said, gluten-free, and learning what all that is. And then we have other modules. One we recently added was social media, so like how to represent your restaurant's brand online, how to not represent it online, and that type of thing.
I have one question. What about training for like closeout of drawers, like cash register, financial training? Is that included in it, or is that?
Right. Yeah. So that's included. So we have point of sale screenshots for the employees themselves, but there's also a section to separate out for managers. So how to deal with the bank at the end of the day, what to do with the safe, that type of thing. Procedures for counting out money. So that's all in there. And it depends on your restaurant, but certainly there's a certain amount of content development that it needs to be done with some places. Basically, if you don't have, if your training's not already rocking in the first place, it's not going to help out much if we put it online, right? So we help you develop it a little bit more, and we can supplement it with our own if you don't have it.
Huh.
And
okay.
I was going to ask, do you meet with people personally first, and is there like a lot of face-to-face time first, and then you coordinate the technical stuff?
Right now, since we're mostly in New Orleans, we have the opportunity to do that. Otherwise, we have a couple clients that are not in New Orleans, so basically that would entail we talk over Skype and then screen sharing. But realistically, we don't literally have to be in the restaurant to set it up, because it's just putting everything online.
Huh. Now, you were born and raised here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So were you involved in the restaurant business before this venture?
Yes, I worked in an absurd amount of restaurants in high school and college.
What were some of them?
I worked at Mr. B's. I worked at Parkway Bakery.
Those are all guests we've had on. That's great.
Yeah,
I
I listened to that one actually. Landry's, Outback. I worked at Hooters for a short while out in Metairie.
You were a waitress at that?
I was a waitress. I'm the one that had that big lawsuit. No, I was in the kitchen there for a short while with a friend. It was actually not a bad time. We didn't last long though.
Okay, what was
Why
the?
did you get in trouble? I want. Wait.
No,
Why
we
did
didn't
you
get
not
in
last
trouble.
long?
It was just it was tough. I was doing the frying, and they have like 30 deep fryers, and I was just I didn't want to deal with it anymore. It wasn't worth it. But no,
You were one of
it's
those
not-
employees that needed some leadership, huh?
Yeah. They didn't have much leadership, but the interfacing with the waitresses is not what you think it is for anyone out there who's thinking about working at
Really?
Hooters. Yeah.
Why? I wanna hear
I
more
don't know.
about
It's just how kind of how they have the culture built in. It's just like shove your food in the window, and there's not much talking or anything. I guess that makes for good business practices on their side.
Is
Yeah,
that why
I
your
was
friend
picturing
wanted to
the
work
kitchen
there?
of Hooters like one of those B movie like women's prison videos or something. No, it wasn't. It's not like that, huh?
Right? No.
They're not skipping around the kitchen and they're
They don't even walk in the kitchen. They have it set up that way, so it's just like gets pushed out a window. And
That's
yeah,
so sad. It's tragic.
it was sad. It was. I'm
Because that's
sure-
really the only reason to work at Hooters, I would think.
Exactly. I'm sure it contributed to our quick exit out of Hooters for sure.
So, what was the worst restaurant you worked at?
The worst one I worked at, let's see. I worked in several bars. I'd have to say I worked at the Jester on Bourbon Street once for like 6 hours, and it was terrible. And I actually just walked out of my shift. That's the only time I've ever done
Did you?
that.
Was it terrible because the people you were dealing with, or the
I would say, well, for one, lack of training certainly is part of it. But basically, they're just like, hey, here's the daiquiris. It must have been. It's like here's the daiquiris. This is where this is the cup, and daiquiris go in here. But like on top of that, you're on your own. But basically, it must have been some bad weekend, and there's like no tips at all, and the pay was horrible. I was like, what am I doing here? So that was probably the worst one.
Was that your last job in the restaurant business before you decided to go into business for yourself?
No, that was probably. Man, it was either Landry's or Parkway. Parkway is definitely excellent to work at, and also the cleanest restaurant I ever worked in.
Huh.
Yeah, they make you clean that place. I think part of it was because the owners had not owned a restaurant before. Has to do with it. So they did like absolutely everything by the book, and we had to clean that place every day. So it's good to know eating there at least.
Okay.
Huh. Well, see, the reason why I was asking about the worst is I was wondering if any of those things inspired you to go into this business. Like you looked at it and said, "Hey, there's something missing here." Like, there's a big component missing here. Now, do New Orleans? You mentioned a 50 or 100-page manual. Do New Orleans restaurants actually have 50? Do they bother to make 50 to 100-page manuals for the workers, or do they just sort of kind of wing it?
You would see, 100 pages would probably be on the high end. A lot of places wing it, so you certainly have a mix of in-person training in the manual. But what happens is, you have an opportunity to prepare me, give me the tools to operate really well in your restaurant, but you don't. And that's, the first thing you should do is help me, identify with your brand and culture, and they make no effort to do that for the most part. If you do get a manual, a lot of the time it's downloaded off of restaurantowner.com or something, and then they just change their name and put it in there, and it doesn't really suit the restaurant. And it's full of 80 and 100 page bullets per page, where it just lists checking through things. But certainly I wanted to do something that was restaurant focused. So there's basically scheduling, point of sale, that type of thing. And I found a huge hole in training because a lot of training tends to be terrible. So I chose that.
Huh.
Do you think better training would help create a better culture of service? And what do you feel about temporary jobs?
Right. I think ideally, you'd see if Sidework became a behemoth of a company, that you'd see the level of professionalism and service go up consistently across the board because people are being trained better. I think as far as the level of service, I would like to think the vast majority of restaurant owners certainly care. They want to deliver. They want to give you great food and great service. The people, the managers and restaurateurs that don't care, I can't really help them out much if they don't care.
Right.
But I would like to see the level of service bumped up across the board, and people definitely. Research has shown basically that you are more likely to go back to a place with great service and mediocre food than great food and mediocre service. You know, so basically, you know, I would like to help to raise the bar for sure.
Well, I mean, so what kind of things are we talking about? Like, I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of it's common sense. You don't have to have in the manual, like, do not spill soup on the customer. If you do, say you're sorry. I mean, it's not like that. What kind of things are we talking about? Give us some few examples so we get kind of a feel of it.
Right. Yeah. So you know, it certainly has to be separated out with your segments. You have quick service, fast food, and then casual dining, and then fine dining. So there are certain nuances to each of them. On the service side specifically, it's, you know, talking to people in a non-scripted manner, actually listening to them. If they don't want to hear the specials, don't tell them the specials. You know, there are little things like some things I put in there that I picked up on is at the end of make sure to say your name at the end of the spiel. Don't walk up and say, "Hey, I'm Max," immediately. Say it after. They're a lot more likely to identify you, say your name, and tip you better as a result of that. Those type of things.
Good.
Right. You know, smile, repeat people's orders back to them. So there are those types of things on the service side specifically.
Well, I have 1,000 questions on this issue, but let's first introduce your plus one. I see she's here. Can you tell us who this is?
Yeah, this is Marie Guevara. She is first of all my girlfriend's sister, and she's also a pastry chef at Stella. So I thought she'd be a good fit.
We love Stella.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
I've been speaking for myself. Margaret, you must love Stella.
Absolutely.
Who doesn't love Stella?
That's wonderful to hear.
How long have you been there?
I've been there about 5 months now. So.
All right. Okay, so you're in the post Nicolas Cage era
Yes,
of Stella.
yes, but
right.
I've certainly heard all the stories about it, all the drama.
Right.
But it's a good place to be. I'm excited to be there.
Well, that's exciting. Okay. Well,
How
welcome.
long have you
Thank
been there?
5 months. I started in May, so
So where were
Fairly
you?
new.
Where were you before that? Were you anywhere before that?
I was in Paris actually.
You were in Paris.
I was, yeah.
Wow.
I was studying at Le Cordon Bleu
All right.
last year, and then I did an internship at a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Paris, but not in pastry actually, just in cold appetizers, and I was working on the fish station for a while. And I had an opportunity to work in a small pastry shop there in Paris. But I kind of felt like it was time to come home, and I really missed New Orleans. I had been gone a long time.
Were you raised here?
No, actually, my dad is born and raised here, and we've kind of come here all my life, but I'm from Dallas, Texas.
All right.
But I've been here about 9 years, so New Orleans is my home.
All right.
But
Exciting. I'm glad
yeah.
you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, Stella, boy, I don't even know where to begin with Stella. There's so many questions for that. I love that place so much. So, what do they say about the Nicolas? What's the inside scoop on the Nicolas Cage incident?
I just hear from the servers that he punched the front window out, and
Right.
it caused quite a ruckus.
Yeah.
The dining room there, of course, is so beautiful and so elegant, and it's
Well, that's the thing I think about Stella's. I mean, there are a lot of great restaurants that are of the caliber of Stella's. Maybe I mean it's in the top, but there's several. But most of them are not as. I mean, to me, Stella's is kind of it's more tame. The
Right.
atmosphere there's more tame than a lot of the places. I mean, it's quieter. It's
Right.
It's the lights are a little dimmer. So to have him like breaking out windows and being belligerent and stuff.
Yes,
there is
exactly.
Like,
I don't.
got
What
arrested
pushed
for-
him to do that?
I
mean,
think that he was intoxicated, severely intoxicated.
so it's the bartender's fault. at Stella's.
right. It's those
It's the server's
fun
fault.
cocktails.
That's in the manual, probably. For
Exactly.
Stella's,
Yeah. That's the
Over-serving.
Nicolas Cage comes in, cut him off after 12. No more than 12 cocktails.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have his picture up in the back or anything, but I'm sure he's banned from there.
I think he's kind of banned from the whole city.
Yeah, that's true.
now this is most places like Stella, the high end, probably already have established programs and manuals. But have you entered into any high end dining places that like updated or worked with any high end restaurants yet?
Yeah, we're working with one right now. I can't say who it is just yet, but they basically you have two main segments. You have restaurants
That
who
it
already
rhymes
have really solid training, and they want to they find value in reducing the cost of it by putting it online and just streamlining it. And then you have the restaurants who don't have such great training and they need help, and that includes putting it online. But basically, this restaurant their training is very intense, and they told me it takes about $60 worth of paper every time they print out a new packet. And basically, they already have their tests. We're putting them online, and their employees go through training on a daily basis. So it
that
takes about a week
saves
to go
a
through.
lot of money, and it's green.
Right. Yeah. It saves money. There are also some great side effects on the front end. Hiring people, you can use it as a filtering mechanism for employees that might not work out so well. So if you give them the login ahead of time, and they either A, don't bother logging in, or B, they just fail it, you can tell them they're not going to work out. Whereas before, you might, you spend hours with them training before you figure that out. A lot of restaurants with the paper, you don't necessarily know if they read through it.
That makes sense.
Max, with your go ahead.
Oh.
You gonna ask something?
Well, I was going to ask you what the training was like at Stella, if you can reveal that. I mean, if that's a...
For me, I didn't have to go through too much training in terms of a manual or a packet. It kind of worked out really well for me because the girl whose position I took at the time, she was about to leave. She was on a 1-year contract from Thailand. We work with a lot of international people, and so I kind of came in at the right time, and she did a hands-on training with me to show me what she does every day, what kind of recipes she was doing at the time. But the beauty of my position is I have a lot of freedom. I really have...
So you're the only pastry chef?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
so you're working by yourself in there and doing
Yes.
what you want. And
Yes,
yeah.
I'm there all day as a mad little pastry scientist, and I get to kind
you
of
get to
be...
create?
Yes, I get to create. I get to come up with new ideas for either plated desserts or the mignardises, the little petit fours that we give after coffee. I like to try new chocolate flavors and all kinds of fun things like that. So I'm really lucky. I feel really lucky to be in that position.
Now we had on a couple weeks ago, we had what used to be pastry chef at Commanders, and they said, we've seen the kitchen there, but
She
you've seen
said
the pastry.
Mr. B's.
Oh, Mr. B's, that's it. Yeah, same family of. Okay, but the one at Commanders, it's like it's a whole kitchen. It's amazing and
Right.
it's huge. But they said that's not typical. I mean, generally, even some high-end restaurants have very, very cramped spaces for the pastry chef and all that. What's it like at Stella's? I mean, do you feel like you have good facilities? There's enough room to do
Yes,
what you want to do?
I came straight from Paris, so space is at a premium there. So I love the kitchen at Stella. I feel like we do have a lot of space. It's really well organized. I don't have a separate kitchen, but I have a separate station. Which is really nice because a lot of places don't even have that. You kind of just have to work around other people and run around other people. But when I work during the day, I have about 4 hours to myself, which is really nice because if I need to make 10 trays of macaroons, I can just take over the counters and spread out, So
now you were working in Paris. Did you get the job there? You were working there full time after school there?
After school,
Cordon Bleu.
yes.
So is it something that you got through your time at schooling there? You were going to school there, and then you were interning at a restaurant.
Yes,
and ended
exactly.
Up, is that how it worked out?
Exactly. I found the restaurant through a chef that I had as a professor at Le Cordon Bleu, and he connected me to this really amazing restaurant, and so I started working there with them, and it was the hardest and most rewarding thing I've ever done.
And how is that different than your American experience or the Stella experience?
Well,
Culturally, what's different about
my
the
French
kitchens
is
there?
not very good, I'll say that.
Oh.
So that was the beginning thing that was super intimidating for me because at Le Cordon Bleu, they kind of give you an easy time because they translate everything from French to English for you. So I hadn't practiced as much as I should have. So I got into the kitchen and they were just giving me orders left and right in French, go do this, go do that, go downstairs, get this. And my school book French was not the same as officially being yelled at in French. So that was really intimidating, but it's such good character building and it was such a good lesson. You learn what all those vegetables are like that, like super fast. And it was really nice. They came to respect me a lot because I worked really hard. I made up for what I didn't understand in my work ethic, and I got to see so many amazing ingredients that people, die to see, like fresh truffles, and huge fresh fish that they would get in every morning. the chef and owner was an avid hunter. So on the weekends, he would go pheasant hunting. And on Monday morning, he would put a gigantic sack of pheasants in front of me with the buckshot still in them and say, clean them.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he show you how to do it or just leave you to it?
No.
Like,
I had to ask a lot, which was also a good French lesson, learning how to ask for help. But
Yeah, it seems like you don't want to screw that up. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, yeah, right. That could really mess up.
yeah.
You could mess up big time not knowing how to clean the animals that you're going to be using.
Oh yeah,
to.
exactly. But they were
And that's at the
good about
two-star?
showing me.
That was at the two?
what is the
Michelin
name of
stars.
the
Yeah.
restaurant?
It was called Apicius, Apicius.
And what does that mean?
It is in reference to legendary chef, I guess you could call him, who was thought to be the first one who published a cookbook. Like in ancient times, he wrote down how to cook and how to prepare food. And
Huh.
so it's in reference to that.
Was he a Parisian?
I don't think so. I think he was Greek or,
Oh, okay.
one of those ancient people,
Oh, okay.
ancient Roman or something.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back to Max for a second and ask a question or two. I just have these burning questions. If I don't get this off my chest, it's going to distract me the whole time. Okay, so explain to me, as a person who I eat out almost every meal, explain to me, I've been doing it for years, right? Why does this happen? Why do you have this common scenario where everything about the service is fantastic? You know, the server comes over and they're just the right mix of not being too creepy and intrusive, but they're helpful and they're friendly and they bring things quickly and they're refilling your glass of water a lot and they're making sure you have lots of table bread and everything's going great. And then you get to the very end of the meal, it's time for the check, and then they disappear for like an hour. It happens all the time across the board, like casual places, middle places, sometimes even higher end places. What causes that? Is there any motive for that? Is it like I'm going to get hungry again and order something else if they're gone that long? I can't figure out why anybody would do that. Because then I end the meal
Maybe
in
they're
rage.
saying you take too long, and they're.
You think it's just me?
I
No
don't
one else
know.
has this experience? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think a huge part of it has to do with the fact that once all the food is not sitting in the window, there's nothing telling them that you're still there. So basically, you're like, your appetizers, entrees come out, and the expo is bothering you to come pick it up. But once you're done with everything, and it's busy, I guess they forget about you. But in the back of someone's mind,
So it's
you're-
not personal.
It's
It's-
not
it's a
personal. but
It's just the
motivational
fact that I
thing.
didn't create a big enough impression on them that they would remember me. I've become invisible to them somehow.
Right. It is a terrible tip killer. The more
Yeah.
minutes you leave,
Have you
can sit
noticed
there.
that is that something that
I mean, there's
is-
two forms
Yeah.
of it takes to me. There's the one where, like, you've gotten your last thing to eat, and then you never see them again, and they never bring you the check, and it takes like an hour. There's that. And then there's, and sometimes you don't even see them in the restaurant sometimes, but I mean, they just disappear. But then, they're on break. I don't know what's going on. But then the other form of it is when you get the check, and then you want to give them back the check with the credit card. So when it's taken a long time to get the check, I get my credit card out already. So as soon as they bring the check, I just hand it to them without even looking at it because I don't want to wait another half hour for them to. But so that's why it happens, because they don't have anything else to remind them to come back, really.
Well, that's part of it, but basically you're on a list of priorities, and once all of you've had everything, you get bumped down that list because basically everyone else, they have their entrees to push out and their drinks to get in, their waters to refill and whatnot. So I think that has something to do with it, but that happens to me all the time. There could be several reasons, but that's one great reason for styles of service and being gang service, where basically every waiter is responsible for all the tables, and that's not going to get missed out on if you have that type of service.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well,
So that
thanks for clearing it up
compensates
me.
for that.
Is there any way to combat that as a customer? Is there any way I can help reduce that other than screaming across the room like, hey, hey?
Yeah, I think people are inherently afraid to talk to anyone other than their own server. You can pull other servers out and ask them, and they'll go get the other server. I think people are afraid if it's not your person, but that's okay. Other than that, unfortunately, if they're hiding or whatnot, or they seem to be hiding, but that's not actually the case. They're usually busy. But I think that's one thing that comes with being a waiter is you have the wait station, and your tables will automatically think you're just sitting in the back chilling, while that's not actually the case. You're actually really busy, but when they can't see you, they think you might not be doing anything. So
And isn't turnover important too? I mean, for an owner or manager to make sure that that doesn't happen because other reservations are waiting and
Right.
I mean,
ideally, yeah. I mean, from a revenue perspective, you want to flip tables as much as possible, and so yeah, that's certainly you want to have that table turned over sooner than later. So that's also a staffing issue for the manager, right? So how many tables you have in your section, how many servers does it take to actually handle full output of the restaurant? So there's a lot that goes into it.
well, can you help? I'm not saying anything against Ray, but when you say ask another waiter or waitress, what would be an appropriate way to say that wouldn't offend them and get the other staff in trouble? But just what would be a gentle way to say? Or would you just ask, I need my tea filled, or would you say, excuse me, could you get my server? Or what do you think is an appropriate? I mean, I know this is crossing over into the clientele, but
yeah, I mean, you would definitely just ask for the server, and this is a thing with how restaurants are run. If it's not run well, then you might get a snooty server who's gonna turn their nose up at you when you ask them something and you're not their table. That shouldn't be the case, but it is, and I guess you could make light of it and make some type of joke like, is my server still alive or something like that. But yeah, just ask them, where's he at?
okay.
All right, interesting. So these are kind of things that get incorporated, I guess, into your quizzes that you do and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
You have a testing format they use in the training, I understand as well.
Yeah, the test is basically the info is pulled from the restaurant's material, and then a lot of things like true or false. Is it okay to point across the restaurant when a guest asks where the bathroom is? That's false. You should either, if you're really busy, tell them, don't point, but ideally you should walk them to the bathroom, that type of thing. How to respond when a guest. We have short answer questions, or basically how should you respond in certain situations when a guest does this. So, if someone has a terrible allergy and it's clearly an emergency situation, do you just blow it off, or do you call the manager? Obviously you call the manager. If someone is clearly irate, how do you deal with the escalation of that situation? How do you calm them down and that type of thing? Which can be applied across any concept. Really, is not specific to casual or fine dining.
So is all this for the people on the they're on the server level? Is there also a component you have for like management, like for the owner, for the maitre d' or whoever? I mean,
yeah, so the management, depending on what the restaurant has available. So we're working on creating our own content. I can talk about that a little more, but basically, one restaurant has videos to deal with the back end point of sale and their inventory system that the management has to learn, and they're going to see their check in and check out sheets for the day and that type of thing. So there's a separate section for management, and also when an employee is trained well enough, basically, or you want to push them up to management, you can just tick a button and they can have access to the management training material so that they can start learning that. But ideally, yeah, we would have some leadership type training on there to add to their existing training.
all right, interesting.
Well, we're going to get back to our guests and questions, but we have to do the book of questions
Right, we have to
now.
give them a test now.
We have to test
Yes.
you, yes. Your skills at answering creatively and quickly.
Oh gosh.
You do not want to model side work after the book of questions. Book of questions would not be the most useful, but it's a nice conversation starter.
Okay, let's start with
It's all very
Marie.
well. Yeah.
What is your favorite number?
9.
9. Sorry. Okay. Would you accept $1 million to leave the country and never set foot in it again?
This was written in 1982,
Yes.
so we got justice for inflation.
Yes.
Wow, that was
Yes.
fast. Okay.
Don't
You've
have
already-
to think about that.
Yeah, just go back to Paris with $1 million.
What's
You could do a lot
the
with $1 million
least amount of
in
money
Paris.
you would take to leave the
good.
country and never come back?
Never come back. Enough to live comfortably in Paris for a year. So
Just a year to never come
yeah,
back?
because once I get there, I'll find some pastry shop to work in, or
Excellent. All right.
Find my
So
way
you
after
ditch
that.
New Orleans. You.
oh, I mean, I love
dream
New
to come
Orleans,
back
but
and- no, I'm teasing you. Okay.
Wow.
All right, Max.
Let me do it.
What is
Okay.
your favorite number?
Goes up to 217, I think.
Yeah.
69.
69. We've had that one before, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have to make it raunchier
It
or
is.
something. That's lame.
Yeah. Give me another one.
72.
72. Okay. If you could have free, unlimited service for 5 years from an extremely good cook, hey, look at that. Chauffeur, housekeeper, masseuse, or personal secretary, what would you choose? You got cook,
Let's.
chauffeur, housekeeper, masseuse, or personal secretary. Unlimited.
I'd have to say the chauffeur.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for how many years?
5.
Yeah, I'm inclined to go with cook, but 5 years is a long time for the same cook. But like being driven around everywhere and not having to deal with the stress,
Nice.
definitely chauffeur.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of this like
Excellent.
massages are great, but how much massaging can you get in one day? How much time do you have for it? You know what I
Right.
mean? It has diminishing returns. If you're getting
Every
3
day.
hours, if you're getting 3 hours of massage a day, it's going to get boring for you after a while, right? So that's out. Yeah. Okay. I like that chauffeur. That's great.
Chauffeur over personal secretary?
Okay. Oh.
Definitely.
well,
Okay.
chauffeur, you can take road trips, like amazing road trips for 5 years. You can go
Yeah, I
so
mean-
many places.
Yeah,
I
I
would
can have a
think.
virtual assistant online for $4 an hour. No problem.
Wow. Huh. Kathy Lee Gifford or whatever, like $4 an hour.
I will out of the
pretty
not.
Is that below
This
minimum
is
wage?
this is a Filipino, which they're completely fine with. You can go on Odesk or Elance,
That
and
was
they're
Kathy
actually
Lee
very
Gifford's
legit.
problem, I think. Was it her Filipino?
I don't remember.
Burma? Remember that? You don't know any celebrity references. What do you? No,
I don't have a TV.
I don't know. I don't watch much TV either. I just remember hearing about that. Okay.
Kathy Lee Gifford, isn't she from the 80s?
Yeah, but exactly like this book. She was popular when this book was. No, she had a sweatshop. She owned part of a sweatshop in Burma or something, and then she got in trouble because, Jeff Stossel, what is his name? John Stossel or something, flew out to Burma, and they found out they were paying the kids. They had 12-year-old kids doing it for like a penny an hour or something. It was really bad.
So you don't have people working for $4 an hour. You're doing all your web work yourselves, right?
Yeah,
You're-
yeah.
So you work in
You're-
Launchpad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's different than the Idea Village, but that's out of that same area, right?
It's in the same building as
Same
Idea
building.
Village.
That's what
Yep.
I thought. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a co-working space. There's I don't know. There's about 90 companies in there, and they occupy a couple floors. And basically, you just pay monthly. You can have sit at a desk where you don't get to leave all your stuff there, or you can have a desk where you do get to leave your stuff, and then you can have an office. But it's a good environment to be in because you have like-minded people, entrepreneurs, and bounce ideas off of them and network easily.
So you feel like it's created some synergy there to have different people around that are also entrepreneurs and all?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to I was working at a home for a time, and it's a lot easier when there's people around you working, but also having the separation of work and home if you are working out of the house is really nice. So, yeah, I definitely really enjoy it.
Well, Marie, were you ever when you did some besides cooking and all? I mean, were you ever did you ever do any waiting or any
Oh
of that?
yes,
Yeah.
I
okay.
was a bartender for 6 years before.
New Orleans?
Yes. at
Where?
Houston's on St.
Houston's.
Charles.
Okay, yeah, all right. 6 years in one place.
6 years in one place.
All
It was a
right.
long time. Yeah.
Was that like right out of school or how? Yeah.
That was during college
Okay.
and after also.
all right.
And then my mom moved to Paris, and she just kind of bounced this idea off me. What
Wait,
about
your
going
mom moved to Paris? Why'd your mom move to Paris?
for her job? Her
Oh,
work
okay.
was moved there, and we just kind of thought, what if?
And you were already out of the house, or you could have been out of the house at that point.
Oh
You were an
yes, I had
adult.
been out of the house for a long time.
And then you and so you follow her there to go to the Le Cordon Bleu.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's like what, a year and a half program or something like that? How
It's
I guess it
about a
depends.
year.
A year. Okay.
About a year, and
But it's
they have
intense,
3
right?
different levels. It's very intense because it is so short of a program, so they teach you everything in a short amount of time, and they really structure it well, but they really challenge you. They really push you, and they teach in terms of recipes. So they'll take classic recipes in order to teach techniques. So they'll take boeuf bourguignon and teach you how to braise and how to make a stew by using that recipe.
Now, is
for
it all
example.
French cuisine, or do they do? I mean, can you learn to make like chop suey there or whatever too? I mean, it's
No,
like, are they doing sushi? You know?
I wish that would have been really cool, and I would be more
But
well-rounded.
they're very old school, right? I mean, it's
They're
just
very old school.
Yeah.
The other locations that they have, like around the U.S. and around the other countries, are more worldly. They have more options. You can study Asian, you can study Italian. But the Paris location is very, very classic, very traditional, and very strict.
Now, how hard is it to get in? Is it a pretty rough
It's
admission
surprisingly
process?
not hard
Not that hard.
at
It's
all.
probably harder to stay in than the.
It's
than to-
harder to pay for it is the thing. It's
Oh.
extremely expensive. So if they feel like, okay, well, just send us your information, fill out the application, but if you can make it here and you can pay for it, then sure, come along.
Huh.
So it's not very hard to go.
But it doesn't mean that afterwards you're going to get a job. I mean, you have to prove
Exactly.
yourself, and right?
Yeah, and they tell you that. I remember at graduation, the chefs were like, this is just the very beginning. Don't think that just because you finished this amazing program, but it doesn't mean that much in the real world of cooking. You can't just finish school, as with any school, you can't just finish school and say, oh, I know everything now. You really need to work hard and learn and start from the bottom and work your way up and really prove yourself. So
Well, culturally, in Paris and in France, would a business like yours, do you think there's a market for it there, or is that more traditional? And I mean, obviously, the world is more progressive, but would that be a harder market to break into?
I mean, they definitely have a much higher standard of service. It's the you can be a career server. You can work in a restaurant for your whole life, and it's not really looked down upon. So I don't. On the other side, they are more tech advanced. Specifically in Paris, you'll see. One thing that's the problem with restaurants, they're very slow to adopt new technology. So that makes it tough for a company like mine. That's a good question. I haven't actually thought outside of the U.S. specifically, but yeah, I'm not sure. What did the what do you think about online training there?
I think it may work because they take service so seriously there that more comprehensive training may be beneficial to them. The only thing is that they respect the traditional hierarchy of wait staff and kitchen staff too, to where you start as a water boy, let's say, or whatever, or a busser, and then you really have to work hard to make a back waiter or something like that. So that would have to play into it, but I think they would be super open, and like you said, they are much more tech savvy than us. For example, every restaurant there, or even cafe, uses the handheld credit card machines at the table. They would never take your credit card to a machine that you couldn't see. They would only bring the machine to you, which I think is kind of nice. We should kind of adopt that, I would say.
Yeah, and I remember it was the first place I ever saw an iPad menu. I was like, this is awesome. They whip out 4 iPads. We sit down at the table, and that was really cool.
Where was that?
This was at this crazy. This
Oyster
was at
bar.
this oyster restaurant. They have all this crazy delicious food. The presentation is just insane. They have an appetizer that's like 8 different oysters, and each one is from a different region. And they have it. I guess they have dry ice under it, so they drop it on the table, and it's all flowing with smoke, and it just looks. The presentation is epic. And
the menus are so cool because not only do they have pictures of each menu item, but they're in flash. So they are like motion pictures. So it shows the smoke coming out, from the dry ice. It's really impressive. And it makes you see it and be like, I'm going to get that.
How long ago was this?
This was last year.
a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I like, when I go into a restaurant, I like to walk through the tables because I like to look and see what everybody else is eating. But I don't have to be rude and do that if I have
Exactly.
Margo, when are we
motion
going to write our
picture.
tip book? We got to write our tip book of like as customers, like stuff like that. And I can add now. Now I know what to do about it when the check doesn't come for an hour.
Well, I
Yeah.
always eat well because
Yeah.
I see what other tables
Yeah,
are
you're a great
eating. I'm
diner.
just like, what did that table over there have? But
Yeah, you eat with your eyes.
Yeah.
First, anyways. So it's important. You see something really delicious or really beautiful looking, it's like, I want that. I want
Yeah.
what they're having.
I just remembered also this place had several really cool things about it. One was the olive oil was in a cologne bottle, so you sprayed the olive oil, which is just kind of, as far as a restaurant goes, was really cool.
Does that taste better though? Come on, really.
Maybe
I mean,
I
it
know.
may be
I'm sure
cool,
it-
but
it-
technically,
Your mind might like to think it tastes better,
The one
but
with like the little pump behind it. You know what I mean? Like the little that little
like
ball
an
that
old
you squeeze?
perfume
That's what I'm
atomizer.
saying,
No,
yeah.
like a,
it was like
this.
a straight up,
Right.
cologne, a normal cologne.
Oh,
Bottle.
I'm doing that for sure. I'm putting that on my dining room table for sure tonight when I get home. That's great.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions. I know we'll have to wrap it up,
Yeah, we're
but
almost out of time.
this is maybe a bizarre question, but like when you're testing people, I know on the serve safe test they do like try and trick you. What is the funniest or most amusing little thing you've put in a manual so far that maybe it was referred to you by an owner or
Right. I would like to say I'd see more funny things in the manuals that I get. Mostly this would be in the form of multiple choice when I'm creating the questions, and it would say, what do you do when a customer tells you they don't like their food, and there's regular answers, and I guess a funny one would just be throw it on the floor and tell them to get out, that type of thing.
so you can have fun with it like that.
Yeah, you're just like you see on any exam, you have the outliers that are clearly not correct, and then if you have somebody that chooses that one, then that guy's not good to go in your restaurant.
Well, I mean, there's a restaurant I'm not going to name, but my wife and I went there. We had a nice meal. It was okay. There was a couple things about it that kind of worried me, but it was all right. And then I start hearing stuff on Facebook about the wars that they're having with their customers, and maybe you know the one I'm talking about because it became kind of famous. But I went to their site and I found like their web page or their Facebook page, and they had these like ongoing verbal battles with like their customers. We're like, well, you're a jerk anyway. You leave a lousy tip and like da. And they're going back and forth on their own Facebook, and then they shut down a few weeks ago. I was like, well, that's not a big surprise.
Yeah, you could not help
Right.
them.
Yeah, that would not be. They wouldn't be able. No amount of websites or whatever would ever be able to help those folks, right? I mean, that's
Right, they have some social media training, but I understand from a restaurant owner's perspective, when you see on Yelp and Facebook when someone says something that's clearly didn't actually happen in your restaurant, or
Right.
it's a possible competitor, it's really hard to refrain yourself. But you can always reply in a level-headed manner.
Or just take it down, even, right? I mean, like it's your page.
Right, on Facebook you can. Yelp is obviously
Oh,
a
that's
huge
different,
problem.
right.
Yeah.
But no, this guy was like going at it with the customers, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was
No good
was
can
a
come of
huge.
that.
Yeah. Those people, some people are just not good for running restaurants, and that was a couple that's not good at it.
He was also lashing out at all the neighboring restaurants too. There's one across the street from him, and he was going nuts on that place too. I was like, ooh, not a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, well, looks like we're out of time. Thanks so much for coming. This has been really interesting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Max, will you please tell us
Yes.
how people can get in touch with you and your business, and give us a website and
Sure. It's gosidework.com is our website. You can give us a call. The number's on there, or contact us through our contact form. You can learn more about it. We're free to give you a demo if you're interested, and you can follow us at Get Sidework on Twitter.
One question I had, I forgot. Why Sidework? Where does the name come from? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it solves. It's as far as a company naming goes, it's 2 syllables. It's easy to remember, and it's related to the industry in some way. So it solves both of those. So restaurant owners like it. Although Sidework is not something specifically that employees necessarily love, it's they get it when they hear it, and it's not a made up word. I wanted to go with a real word.
All right. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so we have your web address, and we'll also put a link up for Stella's. You have anything you want to plug while we're at it, Marie?
Oh, I don't know. Just come and check out our new desserts. We're doing a lot of seasonal things. We have some beautiful peaches in from the late summer harvest in Alabama. And we have some new mignardies, which are a nice lagniappe treat after coffee, some really beautiful chocolates. And I just started doing some black and gold stuff. So exciting for Saint season.
All right. Great. Well, Our special guest today has been Max Godin of Sidework and Marie Guevara of Stella. And it's been a good show. Our show is recorded live at Ted's Frost Top on Claiborne Avenue in Calhoun in Uptown New Orleans. Ted's is open 7 days a week, serving first-class burgers, beer, and their awesome homemade root beer in a frosty mug. Midnight Menu Plus One is produced by Grant Morris, and Chris Keogh is our technical director. And this fabulous audio quality that you hear is by PreSonus Audio Electronics. Makes all kinds of wonderful things. Visit PreSonus.com for more information. You can get in touch with us here at Midnight Menu Plus One by going to our website. It's NewOrleans.com, and from there you can follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, sign up for our mailing list, get all kinds of swag. And while you're at It'sNewOrleans.com, you can listen to other episodes of Midnight Menu Plus One and our other shows, Happy Hour, Mindset, True to the Game, Vietnola, Out to Lunch, and others. And if you listen to the show on iTunes, please rate us and review us. It helps other people to find us. Midnight Menu Plus One is a production of INO Broadcasting for It'sNewOrleans.com. So we meet here again at Ted's Frost Top. I am Ray Kanata.
And I'm Margot Moss. Thanks.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potting mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, U.S. only.